You're listening to a Cult Talk Network podcast.
File access granted.
Welcome, all you believers, skeptics, idealists, all those who question the universe around them. I'm Ty.
And I'm Bailey.
And this is Cult Talks Conspiracy Summer at Sea 2, the second part of our annual summer event that we've made a little bit of a tradition out of. We're talking about all ocean-based conspiracies, if you're not familiar.
Yep. Because it's already, the ocean isn't terrifying enough.
Oh, absolutely.
It's
absolutely.
not scary enough.
It's one of the most mysterious places on Earth, hands down. So much in there. Right? This is a series we can continue on and on and on. There's an endless list of things that take place in the ocean that are just weird, unexplained.
Oh yeah, it's scary. I don't like it.
Last episode, Bailey talked about a very mysterious disappearance of a beloved Australian politician, Mr. Harold Holt.
Yep.
And that was a
R.I.P.
great deep dive. A lot of twists and turns in that one. Was not expecting that much intrigue around just a simple drowning.
Right?
They're gone or they're not. But that was very interesting.
It's just crazy.
Going into the background of all the stuff surrounding that. And today we're kind of talking about another odd disappearance, a group disappearance, I guess. We're talking about the Pensacola Sea Monster attack. Have you ever heard of that, Bailey?
I heard about it on the last episode where we said that we were going to talk about it.
Yeah, strangely, not a lot of people have heard about this. Like, it's kind of like a fringe thing for some reason.
Really?
I think so. Like, I don't think there's too many people that are familiar with it. I know it was in an episode of something on History Channel, one of those shows. I forget which one, but I know one show covered it on there. You know, in like an episode, one of those monster shows that History Channel has. So I know that was on there, and I think aside from that, that's the only like mainstream thing I'm really familiar with ever covering it. But other than that, you know, I've found it on like forums and things like that, and a couple other little locations on the web you can find recounts of this. But yeah, for some reason, not very well like documented. A lot of YouTube videos about it, though. You can find, you know, a number of YouTube videos surrounding it, but it's a very interesting event.
Interesting. Like, that always really shocks me when things are like underreported, especially like big creepy things in the ocean, like in the in the sea. Like, no, like that. Everyone needs to know about that. I feel like that should be a public service announcement that matters. But just my thoughts.
So, well, if you haven't heard about it, maybe some of our audience hasn't. So, I mean, we're going to be diving deep into this one. We're going to really go into detail about the actual event, and we'll talk a little bit about the events that followed and some of the stuff leading up to it. But we're really going to take a deep dive into the events that took place on the supposed Pensacola Sea Monster attack.
Oh, that's
what
exciting.
actually happened there. So I think without further ado, if you're ready, I'm ready. We can go ahead and make everyone question everything before they go back in the water and unseal file 045. You ready?
I am ready, Freddy.
You ready to dive on in? All right, let's go ahead and let's unseal file 045, Wave of Fear, the Pensacola Sea Monster attack. So before we talk about the attack or the mysterious events that people call the Pensacola Sea Monster attack, first we'll talk about kind of one of the key locations of this event. It's kind of a central part of the Pensacola Sea Monster attack. Usually when people are talking about it, they also talk about this as well. So making her debut on the global stage during the Spanish-American War of 1898, the USS Massachusetts was a formidable symbol of the United States' ambition to assert itself as a dominant naval force. Displacing 10,000 tons of water and armed with an array of weaponry, including 4 13-inch guns built for power and resilience.
Oof.
Yeah, she was a brute, especially back in the 1800s.
Oh my God. What are you? Oh, wow. Woo!
Although the Massachusetts did not engage in the war's most famous battle, its presence in the Caribbean allowed it to play a crucial role in the blockade of Santiago de Cuba. Post-war, the Massachusetts became a representation of the U.S. Navy in international waters. So they would send the U.S. Massachusetts out to patrol international waters as kind of our representative of our naval force.
So if you saw the U.S. Massachusetts, you buttoned up real fucking quick.
Yes.
You towing that line.
Now, first built in the 1890s, she was soon surpassed by far more advanced ships. Having served her country with distinction, she was decommissioned in 1919. The ship would then be scuttled off the coast of Florida in the Pensacola Bay to serve as a target ship used by the Navy for training purposes. So, over time, what they would do is they would use that ship as a target for the new ships, kind of hone in their weaponry or sight in their guns.
Mhm.
So that's what she became. That was her purpose from that point on. Now, over time, the sunken ship would contribute to the local marine ecosystem, becoming an artificial reef and subsequently a very popular attraction for divers.
Hmm.
Now, not the wax poetic, but it's kind of cool. Like they took this thing. It was like built for war, basically built for destruction, and it would later become like this, uh, basically this home for nurturing marine life around the Pensacola Bay.
Aw.
It'd become like a very very crucial part of the ecosystem. So it's pretty interesting that that became its ultimate fate.
That's kind of beautiful. It took
Yeah, it
life and
is.
then it gave life.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's still an ongoing location today too. I mean, I think it's more so taken by the reef now than it is, remaining as the U.S. Massachusetts.
Yeah, if you ever got me to go diving, I'd probably do that. Yeah, I'd have to go see that. That would be beautiful. I feel like I'm going to change my opinion by the end of this episode, but
Now, this location will play a crucial role in this story, this true story, by all accounts. Now, March 24th, 1962, a typical sunny Florida day, and the U.S. Massachusetts set 1.5 nautical miles south by southwest of Pensacola. The waters were calm and clear. The perfect day for 16-year-old Edward Brian McCleary to gather up four of his best friends for a fun-filled trip to the offshore hotspot. Now, all these boys had a shared love of skin diving. Something they did in their free time. Skin diving is typically done with just a face mask and flippers. You don't have any oxygen equipment. You basically just hold your breath. You dive as deep as you can, or whatever. And you go back up for air. Just kind of a recreational thing. You're not going to the depths or anything like that.
okay.
Now these four boys, we have Brian McCleary, 16-year-old, and his four friends: Warren Feely, 17-year-old; Eric Royal, 16; Larry Bill, 15; and Bradford Rice, 14. This is something these boys did all the time, as they had recently acquired a 7-foot inflatable Air Force life raft, which allowed them to venture in open water for their dives. So they no longer were just tied down to the shore, or near the shore at least. They could now take their raft out to the middle of the ocean to deeper spots and do their skin diving. The boys boarded the raft and pushed off toward the artificial reef, not a cloud in the sky. Now, that's something that is a very big thing to note, is that from all accounts, March 24th, 1962 was a perfect day. No storms, no clouds, nothing appeared to be on the horizon. At the time, at least, they pushed off from the shore to make their way out. But as they paddled to the sandbar where the U.S. Massachusetts rested, they could feel a breeze begin to blow. And soon they saw white caps begin to form atop the water. White caps, what that is is as wind pushes water, you'll get like that white tip effect on top of the like this as the waves get choppier and choppier. Though young, the boys were very aware of the danger of being in rough seas, especially in their small craft. Collectively, the boys agreed to turn back just shy of their destination and head back to shore. So they were smart enough to know that, for whatever reason, as stated previously, this appeared to be a perfect day, but something had come. A storm was brewing unexpectedly, which can happen in the ocean, but this seemed to just basically come out of nowhere. The
Eerie.
conditions, unfortunately, rapidly deteriorated, and the current began to pull the raft out to sea away from shore. Thinking quick, the boys attempted to fight the tide by having the two smaller boys row the oars while the others jumped in to try pushing the raft. But in 20 feet of water, this did little to change their circumstances. So they were basically trying to fight it. The boys got off and were swimming in the opposite direction, trying to push the boat.
Oh gosh!
But the current was much too strong and continued to pull them out to sea. With each passing moment, their situation grew worse as their sight of the shore grew more and more distant. They tried to wave down nearby boats, but failed to get their attention. They had a fishing spear, I guess. So what they did is they tied I believe it was a yellow, flag or something around it. And they shot this fishing spear toward a boat, but it landed just shy, and no one ever saw them.
Oh no!
So as they drifted further out, they came across a large buoy. The boys needed to take action as the waves were growing in size and beginning to overwhelm the craft. They decided to try to tie the raft to the large buoy so they could climb onto it and wait out the incoming storm. You know what a buoy is, right?
The thing that sticks up out of the water. Yeah.
Yeah. And as you get out in the ocean, they're huge. They're not just little tubes. When you get out further in the ocean, they're very big.
I think there's a Blake Lively movie that takes place almost entirely on a buoy.
Yeah, The Shallows.
Yeah, I need to watch
that.
That's
a great shark movie. That's a great movie. Yeah, that's one of my number 2 behind Jaws, I think, with shark movies.
I love Blake Lively. She's amazing. She's a beautiful person.
Yeah. Shallows is a fantastic flick too. As the seas became more violent, they found approaching the buoy to be more dangerous than expected. The giant metal buoy thrashed wildly in the rough sea. So this thing is gigantic. Like I said, as you get further out in the ocean, these buoys are huge because they're meant to warn ships of shallow waters and things like that. And this thing was just thrashing throughout the water.
Ew.
And it was throwing itself against the raft, and all 5 of the boys had to then leap from the raft to get in the water to keep from being just smashed by this giant buoy.
Oh no.
The boys fought to keep above water while they pulled themselves back into the raft, which was now being carried well past the buoy and was filling with water. Quickly, the boys were able to get the water out of the raft, but it still wasn't dry. Darkness began to fall as the boys now found themselves beyond the original destination of the USS Massachusetts. The scared group could only huddle together and hope for daylight to find their way back to shore. So they're in some pretty dire circumstances right now. This whole day has basically went just unbelievably south.
Oh, yeah, hell in a handbasket, that's for damn sure. Ooh, that's absolutely terrifying. The whole time I'm just thinking these are teenagers. These are kids that are out there and fighting for their fucking lives. Oh my God. Just
it's insane to think because like I said, these boys, from all accounts, this was a perfect day just to go out and do this little thing, and it just went so bad so quickly.
Fate just decided to fuck them, for real. I mean, I don't know how else you put it. given all the precursors before this shouldn't have happened. Like,
no, absolutely. Rain had begun to fall, accompanying the high winds and swells, commanding them across the black ocean. After what felt like an eternity of cold rain and wind, it finally let up. It was then they found themselves enveloped by the sudden appearance of a thick fog rolling in, seemingly out of nowhere. The water was now calm. As Edward Brian McClearly would later recall, not a wave rippled, not a fish broke the surface, not a seagull called. Despite all they had been through, the calm scared the boys the most, as it was far more eerie than calming. The boys thought they had all died in the storm and had entered some sort of purgatory. They could see nothing 20 feet in front of them, but luckily, their pack of cigarettes had not been soaked in the storm, and they all shared a smoke and tried to calm themselves.
Why not?
That's when they noticed the water around them had begun to warm. Then they began to catch the stench of dead, rotting fish. One of the boys told the others to be quiet as he could hear something approaching, hoping it might be a boat. But what they saw in the fog didn't resemble any boat they'd ever seen. And what McClearly would just later describe as a telephone pole, about 10 feet high with a bulb on top, stood erect within the shroud. They saw the silhouette suddenly bend in the middle and dive under the water with a splash. Terrified, the boys theorized what they had just witnessed, with one of them finally saying what they were all thinking. Sea monster.
Oh, no.
Their ears rang with a high-pitched whine coming from just out of sight. The boys, to panic, decided they were going to put on their skin diving fins and make a desperate dash to the wreckage of the USS Massachusetts, the last landmark they had seen. As they jumped in the water, they found it to be covered in patches of brown, crusty slime.
What?
Unlike anything they'd ever encountered. Adding to the matter, the unexplainable warm water had turned frigid cold, causing the boys to begin to cramp.
Oh,
then
no.
the rain returned. So this is nothing gets better for these boys.
No.
It's just one hit after another.
This is terrible. I'm so upset for these boys. I'm just, oh, these poor guys.
It is a wild tale for sure. I mean, just one eerie thing after another. Because first you have, of course, the storm coming out of nowhere. The fog comes out of nowhere. The water turns warm. The fish seeing something in the fog. Now they're in this water and there's this brown, patchy crust all over it. Now the water's cold again, and the rain's back. I mean, it's just
and they're in pain.
One hit after another. Huh?
And they're in pain too. Like their muscles are cramping, and I mean, God only knows how dehydrated or hungry they probably are, using up all that adrenaline and everything. So I mean, yeah. Oh man. Whew. Oh my God. I want these boys to live so bad. I love a good underdog.
Aimlessly, in the thick fog, they tried to swim in the last direction they could recall seeing the USS Massachusetts. Which, I mean, that's scary in itself, as jumping in the water, you're surrounded by fog, and then just picking a random direction to swim in.
Yep.
You're so disoriented. There's no way what's north, what's south.
Oh God, no. And I mean, not to mention,
that's a scary thought in itself.
Yeah, the water's constantly moving too, and the current's already been strong enough to pull them. So I mean, that could happen again too.
Well, this is when the real horror began.
The real horror? Oof.
Real horror.
Oh man.
From behind them, they could hear Warren Philly yell, "It's got Brad!"
Oh God. Oh
the boys turned to see Warren be ripped below the surface. They now realized they were in a fight for their lives against something below the surface. Next, Larry Bill was suddenly pulled below the surface with a tremendous force. Eric Roll began to be overcome by muscle cramps, so he clung to Edward McCleary until a wave caused them to separate.
Oh no.
Eric was somehow able to swim ahead of Edward, as they both began to catch sight of the shape of the USS Massachusetts just in the distance. It's here, there, we're almost to safety when Edward Brian McCleary watched as a long-necked creature breached the surface, towering over Eric Roll. With two small red eyes and a wide open mouth, it dove down on the boy and disappeared beneath the surface, leaving Edward as the only survivor.
Oh my God.
The next day, he'd be recovered by the Coast Guard after washing ashore. He has no memory of what happened in that time after Eric got taken underwater. He doesn't remember how he got the shore, but he washed up on shore. He found I believe it was an old lighthouse, something like that. He went in and slept for the night. Then the Coast Guard found him the next day.
Oh man.
Over the following days, a search would comb the waters around Pensacola for the missing boys. Their raft would be found afloat 10 miles offshore. As for the boys, only the body of Brad Rice would be recovered and appeared to be a victim of drowning. He was buried at the Beale Memorial Cemetery. So all four of Edward's friends dead.
Oh, that's awful.
Taken by a sea monster by his account.
Mm.
The local paper, the Ocala Star-Banner, published an article, 4 skin divers missing in Gulf. This article included no mention of the sea monster. In the follow-up interview with McCleary on March 26th in the Pensacola News Journal, also, this contained no mention of a sea monster. So there was accounts, because this is kind of the thing too, is he would the sea monster story comes out later that year through a different publication, but there was accounts that apparently the reason these local papers had no mention is that Brian had told them of the sea monster, what had happened, but it's some sort of conspiracy. There's no way they can publish a story about a sea monster. He was told, so it was left out of his accounts, according to Brian or Edward. Now, the first and most prominent account of these events to be published about the attack by a sea monster came from the 1965 issue of Fate magazine, a Ray Palmer publication, which we discussed at length all the way back in File 013, The Enigma of Richard Shaver. This was, of course, the magazine where Palmer played a significant role in getting Richard Shaver, the Shaver mystery stories, published.
Oh yeah. So lots of like science-y, discoveries.
Yeah, sci-fi, UFO sightings. It has the some of the most prominent UFO encounters ever published come from Fate magazine. But he published in the May 1965 issue, My Escape from a Sea Monster. Now, this is a first-hand account from McCleary, told of the harrowing tale of how his friends were picked off one by one by a mysterious, malevolent sea creature. So that's where this whole thing really, blew up from, is that, because although it was mentioned, it was covered by the local papers of these 4 boys going missing. The sea monster story didn't come out until Fate.
Oof.
Now, in the decades that passed, many have theorized what actually happened on the water that night. It is a very mysterious thing because, despite sea monster or not, 5 boys entered the water, 1 makes it back.
Yeah.
So obviously something had happened. Now, diehard believers in cryptozoology hold it as being one of the most solid accounts of an unknown marine creature interacting with humans. Now, I think this is interesting because this ponders the question, how many other interactions are there just like this, but with no eyewitnesses to report the tale of? I mean,
Nope.
what if this thing is out there on Pensacola and it's just, people drown, people go missing at sea, no one knows?
Nope. I'm not going. Nope. I'm not even stepping on the beach. Nope. 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 That's
That's an interesting thing to think about. Is, this is only reported because there's a survivor. There might be ones where there's not a survivor.
I mean, 4 out of 5 is pretty staggering.
Yeah.
Like
80%.
I mean, that's terrifying. I mean, yeah, I would be so bold as to say that, yeah, there probably are, stories where people did not make it out and are just missing,
Yep.
quote unquote. Oh man.
But of course, others are not so quick to believe such a fantastical tale. So obviously, there are other theories about what may have happened. Now, one of the most obvious, theories or I guess explanations would be that the boys just simply drowned. It's we heard the events leading up to it. They're in a very small raft. They're young. They're maybe not the smartest. They're young kids. So they go out in the water in this little boat, 7 feet. It's not big, especially when you consider the ocean. And a storm comes. Maybe they all just drowned. Boat tips over. They all go in the water. Chaos ensues. They all just slowly, one by one, succumb to the cramps, the exhaustion, and sink to the bottom of the ocean, leaving Brian or Edward Brian McCleary to be the last one alive. And maybe, just maybe, he's so overcome by the trauma and just the I guess the mental impact of watching 4 of his friends die that maybe he comes up with this story.
Yeah.
Of a sea monster. Maybe it's something that just comes from just the trauma of witnessing 4 of his friends die right in front of him.
Yeah. I mean, I hate to say it and acknowledge it, but kids who have gone through trauma, they reimagine that abuser as a monster, or
Yes.
focus in on something different around the room and make it a monster because their brains just won't let them process what is actually happening to them because it's so hard. So yeah, that's absolutely plausible. I don't buy it. I don't buy it.
You don't buy it?
I don't buy it. I don't. So are there hardcore heavy waves out there in Pensacola to where they could think
Well, yeah,
there is a
it's a bay. I mean, and you got to think too. Just if the U.S. Massachusetts is 1.5 miles south of offshore, and these boys were getting blown way past there. I mean, they're at least 2.5, 3 miles out. I mean, that's a long way to swim.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're using your whole body when you're swimming too, so you are gonna burn through whatever you had in your system rather quickly.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where it could just been all these elements coming together, and him just not being in the correct mental state after seeing this that he comes up with this. But, I mean, 4 boys drowning off the shore of Florida in a storm is not, I wouldn't say, fantastical. I definitely wouldn't say it's as fantastical as a sea monster eating one by one. But I mean, it's nothing that would be out of the realm possibility. But that to me probably is the more plausible one. If you're taking a plausibility, they drown. But of course, we do have the account from Edward that it was a sea monster.
Yeah.
Now, some of the other theories are there's a creature called the North Atlantic right whale. Now, this whale, not predatory by any means, but it's a whale. But it's very big, and it comes to the surface and basically does they call it skim feeding, I think is what it's called, where it'll come up and just kind of opens its mouth, and water gets sucked in and it skims through and takes it filters through the feeding. It filters its food basically.
Okay.
These things are pretty terrifying. There's a video I watched of it coming up, and like I can only imagine. You're in the water. I wouldn't even say even if you're not scared. If you're in the water and you're completely calm, and this gigantic whale comes up, opens its mouth, and water rushes in. And when it comes up, it does open its mouth to where it appears to be maybe coming from the water.
Okay.
And the water just rushes in. I mean, everything's around it just sucked in, and it filters it through bristles, and it skim feeds. That is a theory that people have, that maybe he witnessed one of these whales. Maybe it could have by chance taken one of the boys or a couple of the boys or something like that and caused the panic that ensued.
Yeah.
One of the most common descriptions of the Pensacola Sea Monster, as Brian would actually do an illustration later of what the creature looked like, and it's a plesiosaur. I mean, that's what he draws.
Oh
yeah, is a plesiosaur. As you would, the most common descriptor of a sea monster. I'll show Bailey here. I'll put it up on our social media.
Yeah.
That's what he.
Oh,
he
yep. Yep. Hi, Nessie.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So that's what he drew as being what the sea monster was. So there is, that theory that it's that it was that whale coming up the skim feed. He saw what looked like through the fog. Because, they mentioned too in the description that they really just saw like this shape. He doesn't really see the creature fully until it takes Eric Royal. But one of the things too I find interesting is he talks about it being a phone pole with a bulb at the top.
That's
so I don't know if he means like a lit bulb or a glowing bulb, or they're talking about like the shape of a bulb. That was something that got me. I didn't know if he meant it was like an actual light.
Interesting.
Now, other theories. I guess one of the more odd ones is, so a few months prior, a TV show debuted. It is Cecil the Seasick Sea Serpent. Came out.
I feel like I've heard of that before.
I think it's a pretty common one. I think it's a like one of those. Let me see here. Seasick Sea Serpent. Yeah, I've definitely seen this before. So it came out a few months prior, and it was a TV show that featured of course, a sea serpent. It was a comedy show, a kids show, and if you look up Cecil the Seasick Sea Serpent, it is a pretty generic looking, typical sea serpent-esque design. Long neck, little eyes, scales, spikes, all that stuff. So one of the theories is, and it kind of is tied in with the drowning theory, is Brian had, I call him Brian. It's Edward McCleary, but people called him Brian. So if you keep hearing me called Brian, I'm talking about Edward Brian McCleary. Everyone called him Brian. So one of the theories is that Brian saw that show, and leading up to this event, his friends drowned, he's traumatized, and he associates that TV show with this event and creates the Pensacola Sea Monster tale.
Yep.
So that is a theory that people have, is that it's all just the product of Brian kind of losing his mind a little bit.
Yeah, that scans. I mean, I love how I went from I don't buy it to that makes sense now.
I like how you were like listen to it. You're like, oh, the sea monster thing. Wait, the boys drowned. I don't know about that.
Yeah, I don't know. I want
people drowning in the ocean. I don't know.
I don't know, man. I don't know. It sounds sus. I don't know. I just want the monsters to be real, man. Like I can't.
I'm there. Yeah, I want to believe. I'm classic Mulder syndrome. I want to believe.
Oh my god, yeah. I just want them to be real. Like here's the thing. Like I refuse to live in a world where we have so many possibilities and so many opportunities, and like not even on like a work standpoint, but literally like a physical, like biological standpoint. And I refuse to fucking believe that we are it. There are no monsters. There are no aliens. There is no Bigfoot. I refuse to believe. That's honestly ignorant, in my opinion. But if that is your opinion, please leave your comment and let me know, because I would love to explore that and have a friendly conversation about it. But I want the monster to be real. However, this is starting to like make a lot more sense, where it's like, what if he did see the cartoon, and then that, again, like that could just be his brain's way of trying to protect him, like, because like he emotionally like can't face like what actually happened, which could very well be his friends just tragically drowning after immense efforts to not die. Like, I mean,
it's a terrifying event.
oh my God.
Definitely fuck you up. Now, another theory is, what if there was a monster?
Now we're talking my language.
And what if the monster has been right in front of us the whole time?
Don't say it's the human.
What if Edward Brian McCleary killed his 4 friends?
God damn it.
So that's a theory that came up in the years since, is maybe Brian killed his 4 friends, made a story up, got away scot-free. Now, there is nothing that he doesn't have, there's no lead up to this where, he has a criminal record or a history of violence, nothing like that. But one of the theories is that maybe he killed his 4 best friends completely on accident.
Oh.
Maybe they were out skin diving. And as a joke, Brian was in the boat and decided, I'm going to paddle off without my friends to give them a good scare. Then the current came in, pushed them out. He wasn't able to retrieve them. They all die. He's so scared of this, what just happened, maybe even traumatized by the entire event, that he then concocts the story of the Pensacola Sea Monster.
Ooh.
I don't think he's a murderer, but it is very possible. He's a kid.
Yeah.
He played jokes all the time as a kid. I remember something we would do all the time when I was a kid is, we pull off on like the side of like a old like dirt road or something like that. Someone get out to pee and you drive off.
Yep.
Leave him out in the middle of the dark. That's something we would do all the time. So maybe it was kind of a version of that, but out in the middle of the ocean.
I had a friend who would, when we were in college, I had a friend who would like to scare people because they lived out on a backcountry road and a bunch of semis would come through, and they'd like to scare people and drive on the same road as the semi with people in their car and like play chicken with the semi, like going face to face. Yeah, that friendship ended very abruptly after that happened to me.
Jeez.
And but I mean, yeah, like kids do stupid shit all the time. Like, I mean, it's definitely plausible how you would go from I really fucked up to let me make up a story about a sea monster. Seems like a bit of a pole vault to me.
It could have been, out of fear.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh shit, I'm going to prison.
Yeah.
For killing my 4 friends. It's not me as a sea monster. Maybe it could have been that. I mean, you gotta imagine that's gotta be a traumatic thing.
Oh my God.
That's gotta be a lot of weight to carry. I don't think Brian meticulously killed his friends off intentionally. If this did happen, I don't think he killed them intentionally. If so, because like I said, there's no history of violence. There's no accounts of Brian being this sick bastard. I mean, from all accounts, he was just a typical kid. And maybe he just played a prank that went a little too far, got scared, concocts this fantastical tale of this, malevolent man-eating sea monster.
Oh, man.
That's a theory.
Yeah, I don't like that one. I like all the other ones.
Now, something to think about, too. Go back to the whale thing, because people do, bring that up a lot. Of possibly being just a whale. They hear the piercing whine from the fog. The Pacific... It's called the Atlantic right whale is what it's called. The Atlantic right whale does make a very high-pitched squeal that can be heard. Now, too, they talk about in Brian's story, he talks about how the only attack he witnessed, because from the other ones, the other 3 boys simply just were pulled underwater or disappeared underwater. Could have been they simply drowned. They succumbed to the cramps and drowned. Now, the only attack he saw was Eric Royal. And he talked about the creature coming from the water and coming down on Royal. He doesn't actually, the creature doesn't rip him apart or anything like that. So they talk about, this whale could have just came up, breached the surface, and simply crashed down on Eric. You've seen that. You see that sometimes in whale watching or things like that, where whales will breach the surface and they come down on ships or people in some cases. I mean, it's not a unknown thing that people have been simply crushed to death by whales, by boat or just while swimming in the vicinity of them. I mean, these are giant creatures, and anything big is dangerous. I mean, they're not intentionally killing people by any means, but these are massive creatures, and we're little things in places we shouldn't be. So
yeah, like get the fuck out of the way. You're in his house.
yeah, exactly.
Like don't complain. Like, I mean, yeah, complain.
So
like, sorry you lost your loved one, but
so that is a kind of a theory of that's kind of like the more commonly held theory, is when people are reaching for something, trying to keep with his story, give him the benefit of the doubt that this actually did happen, is that maybe they just encountered this whale, they were so scared, they dove in the water, they drowned, then the whale breached surface and unfortunately came down Eric Royal.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely
now
plausible. I'm sorry.
If we want to talk about the sea monster, because that's the hook of this whole thing. It's a sea monster. Sea monster killed these 4 boys, leaving one left to tell the tale of this horrific event. So you got to think about all the elements lead up to this. First off, the storm. So you could actually, there isn't like a lot of like Doppler or anything like that you can look up for the 1960s, but you can go back and kind of see weather reports for these days. And from all accounts, there was no storm on that day. There's no confirmed reports of, a massive storm coming through. The most we have is that there were minor squalls. The ocean is very changeable. Its weather is very changeable too. But according to most reports from that day, it seemed like a pretty clear day throughout. So that's odd to think about. Now, what if this sea monster, it's a fantastical creature to begin with. What if the storm, the fog, all that was part of the sea monster?
Yeah, I mean, that was
what if the storm came with the sea monster?
Right. Yes. Thank you. Yes. Just like, fucking, what's his name? Gojira. Just like Gojira. Yes. From Godzilla.
Oh, yeah.
Makes its own storm.
Ghidorah.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Ben's not going to be happy when he hears that.
I was like, why are you saying Gojira and Godzilla? It's the same thing. Then
there's too many lores. There's too many. Listen, I'm only 27. We just started with the lores about 6 years ago. That's a lot to learn. Okay, it's a lot.
But yeah, what if it is like the storm and everything comes with the sea monster? What if that's part of this thing? Whatever it may be, it brings the storm, brings its victims to it. The fog is there to mask it. It's all just part of this thing's life cycle. That it uses this stuff. It has the power to harness a storm. I mean, it's interesting to think that all these events happened out of nowhere.
Yeah,
and it all leads to a sea monster killing these boys one by one.
Jeez.
And I mean, that's part of the thing too. As with Brian's story, he could have ended the story with a storm came and blew my friends out to the the ocean. We drowned, and they all drowned. It's the inclusion of the sea monster that's very weird.
Yes. Like, I mean, the thing about it is like the trauma masking. Like, I could easily believe that. I can even believe in the sea monster.
Yes.
I don't even know. Like, I refuse to just like believe that this was just like, I don't know. There's just too many possibilities. I think the one where, it was Brian who killed all of his friends by a mistake. Like, yeah, well, that's plausible. It's like, I feel like it's a really far-fetched to go from prank to I saw a sea monster.
Yes. That's the weirdest thing, is like the inclusion of the sea monster is so odd to do. I mean, I get, you mentioned the trauma masking. That's
Mhm.
irrational, and that's probably part of the masking is that irrational portion of it, where it's like
yeah.
you're creating this thing that it's representing this trauma you felt. I mean, a sea monster makes sense in that context. Now, the whole thing with if he killed his friends or if they just simply drowned, why go if you're in the right mind to make it the sea monster thing?
Mhm.
But I mean, I definitely get the trauma masking, the not being in the correct mental state. That makes sense to me. But the whole inclusion of the sea monster is odd. If he was covering up some malintent, some malicious intent, why go that far? Because I imagine if you went told the Coast Guard, like, hey, I was out in the middle of the water, my friend's drowned. It's going to be not look great, but it's not going to look bad because that happens.
Yeah, and I mean, everything, like, if you took the entire story and completely left out the sea monster, like, and even saying, like, I don't remember what happened, like, and giving all of the, life-saving efforts and everything that they were going through to not drown, and then saying, like, I don't remember what happened to them, I just remember waking up in the lighthouse. Totally plausible. 110%.
Yep.
Like, your adrenaline's going, you're stressed, you're, you know, it, like the amount of everything that your body is emotionally and physiologically going through at that point, it's like, that's enough. Like, okay, okay,
Right.
got you. Okay. Like, I don't know. I don't know.
Absolutely.
It's weird. That's so freaking strange. So strange. But, like, haven't there been other reports of like plesiosaurs being found in like other places other than Pensacola and Loch Ness? Like, I feel like there was a couple other
Oh
places
yeah,
around the
yeah.
world.
There's like a very famous photo of, I believe it's a Japanese fishing trawler where it appears they have a plesiosaur they pulled from the ocean. It's a very famous photo that I've seen reported. I mean, I've seen on like various sites, and I guess it got simply dropped in the ocean for whatever reason. They took
Jeez.
a photo of it and dropped it in the ocean. But yeah, plesiosaurs are that's the common thread when people talk about sea monsters. Is they're describing plesiosaurs. I mean, that
Mhm.
was even way back before plesiosaurs was a common thing.
Mhm.
When people would describe these things, they are describing plesiosaurs. And that's exactly what Brian drew in his report in Fate magazine. So that's another thing too we'll talk about as well. Fate magazine. So we covered that extensively in File 013, where we talked about Ray Palmer and just how kind of carny Fate magazine was. And I believe Fate magazine's been brought up a few times too.
Mhm.
In like the earlier episodes, which when we talked about like Roswell and things like that. But Fate magazine, I know we talked about it too pretty heavily in the Men in Black
Oh
episodes too.
yeah, they were
Um,
huge reporters
the
on
way
that.
yeah way back this. So Fate magazine, Ray Palmer, kind of a carny guy, anyways. So people talk about this whole thing being a fabrication of Ray Palmer, that he used this real life event and just concocted a fantastical tale. Because we know that the local papers, despite the rumors, there's no confirmation that this stuff was ever said, but the rumors and conjecture of people that really push for the sea monster idea is that Brian told his story to the local reporters
Mhm.
as is with the sea monster, and they were like, we can't publish that, we're not
Mhm.
allowed to lose our license, all this stuff. They'll never let us report on this. That's never like Brian never came out and said that or nothing. So
Mhm.
now the idea is that Ray Palmer came across this real life event and concocted this whole sea monster thing just for his magazine, which we know from the Richard Shaver stuff. He had no real qualms about pushing, kind of going out of his way to just make fantastical tales to sell
Right.
magazines. So that is a possibility that maybe this whole thing was just a concoction of Ray Palmer, the man behind Fate magazine. Um, we talked about the whale. We've talked about the sea monster, possibly of Brian killing his friends on
Mhm.
accident. Fate magazine. But what happened to Edward Brian McCleary? So he actually died in 2016.
Oh.
Passed away. Um, he died February 24th, 2016. Um, now Brian, from what you're able to find, he actually would struggle with drug addiction.
Oh.
He would struggle with alcoholism in his life. I think it's funny too. If you go to, I found his memorial page, and I'll link it. I'll link it in the notes. But yeah, you guys should find his memorial page from when he passed away, and it's just full of people comment about the sea monster.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's kind of
Which is probably why he had the drug and alcohol problems, guys. Like,
yeah, yeah. It's very interesting that people just took the time to comment on his memorial page on the funeral home about the sea monster. But he did struggle with drug addiction, alcoholism, things like that. So he obviously experienced a traumatic event, whether you want to say it's a sea monster or not. And he was still 16, watched his friends die, one way or the other, and it affected him deeply, one way or the other. Now, there is an interesting note I found. Now, I'll go and preference that this was on Reddit, so you take it with a grain of salt. But apparently, he did have a history of after this event, he became obsessed with dragons.
oh,
Like very obsessed. Now, again, I'm prefacing this was on Reddit. Someone who claimed to have been close to him in some way, but it's Reddit. Take it with a grain of salt. That he became obsessed with dragons, and he would even go out of his way, almost harass people when he would find anyone mentioning things on forums or anything like that about seeing dragons or seeing sea monsters. He would go out of his way to like just try to contact them, and almost to the point where it was like he was harassing them. He would not stop. He needed to talk to them.
Oh gosh.
And he kind of became known for that. That he would, if someone reported they saw a sea monster or a dragon, he would obsessively seek them out.
Oh wow.
For more information.
Oof.
So that's an interesting note that maybe if it is a sea monster, he would become just obsessed with the idea of these things being out there because he believed, or at least he's seen, or at least believed he saw one of these things. He wanted to find others who had seen it, maybe as a way to kind of reassure himself that he wasn't as crazy as maybe people were saying he was.
Yeah, it's a way to cope. Like, give me someone that's not like that's. Listen, humans are social creatures. We can't stand thinking that we are alone or that we are the only one in something. So, like, yeah, that fits. That he's trying to find someone that maybe saw the same thing that he saw or knows something about it.
Yep. Now, there is also people on the Reddit forums as well who claim that in the years leading up to Brian's death, he'd actually he actually sought out psychological help and was in full, had disavowed the idea of a sea monster. That he went through psychiatric help, realized that he didn't see a sea monster, that he experienced his friends drowning, and that helped him in his later years in life, leading up to his death at 70. So there is like that maybe he did at some point seek out help and was convinced that the sea monster didn't happen. Whether or not it actually did or didn't, that's up for debate. But again, these are all Reddit forums.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one other interesting note. So we talked about the 5 boys total. We have Brian McCleary, we have Eric Royal, Bradford Rice, Warren Feely, and Larry Bill. Only one body was ever found, that of Bradford Rice, who was 14 at the time. Now, Cryptomundo, which is a very big website for cryptids. It's kind of like a Wikipedia type site for cryptids, and they do deep dives and things like that into things. They actually did a pretty in-depth investigation on the Pensacola Sea Monster. And one of the things they did was, because Bradford Rice was found, Eric, Warren, and Larry were never found. They never found those bodies. What they did was they actually looked at the the National Social Security Registry, I think is what it was.
Okay.
And found there is just simply no evidence of Eric Royal, Warren Feely, or Larry Bill to ever exist.
What?
Yes. Now, that doesn't mean they didn't exist. That just means they never got their Social Security registration, which you don't have to have a Social Security card unless you're seeking employment. You have, to get a job in the United States, you have to have a Social Security number.
Yeah.
But if you're a kid, 16, 17, 15, maybe they just never got their Social Security numbers. Maybe it is the 60s. Maybe there wasn't as, maybe things weren't as well kept records wise as they are nowadays. But Cryptomundo found no evidence of those 3 boys to have ever existed.
Okay, that's a different turn. Oh, that's interesting. I mean, yeah, in the 60s things weren't as kept up on, but I mean to have like no record. Are birth certificates public record? Can we find birth certificates?
That's what I was thinking too. I was like, can they find birth certificates? But yeah, they went to the National Social Security Registry and just found that there was no evidence of those 3 boys to have ever existed.
That's crazy. Don't you get a Social Security number like at birth though?
Yeah.
Like if you're an American citizen, you get it at birth. So like, so in theory, like, because I don't know, like, wouldn't you like not even have to register? It would just already be there.
That's what I was thinking too. But
That's
Cryptomundo found no evidence.
crazy.
So I guess regardless, these boys just didn't exist. If that is the case,
I don't like
so it could
that.
be that it was just Edward and Brad, and
Just
Brad drowned, and somehow Brian came up with these other 3 boys.
Who else knew the boys? We need to find them.
That's the interesting too, is that the local newspapers do report the 4 missing boys.
That's a turn I wasn't prepared for, and now I have a lot more questions. And I need witnesses. I need people who went to school with the boys. I need the parents. I need birth certificates. I need let's prove they exist. That's ooh. So where does that leave us then? Does that mean they either made up the boys or just made up the story or what?
I would have to say that more than likely what it is that that Brian, if anything, just simply made up these other 3 people out of some sort of traumatic, I guess his mental state. Maybe he just concocted these other 3 boys.
Oh my gosh. But it still doesn't make sense because the newspaper reported 4 missing boys. So someone would have had to have reported 3 other boys.
Well, I mean,
or 2 other boys.
I mean, when he was picked up, he told him that his 4 friends died, or his 4 friends were missing. So maybe they're just reporting verbatim what he said.
Oh man. Well, that's different. That's I wasn't prepared for that one. Yeah, that's crazy. I don't know. I don't know what to believe now, Ty. I don't know. I'm gonna think about this for the rest of the day now. Just be I don't know what's happening.
Now, yeah, it is interesting that all this stuff just it happened. I mean, we know that at least Brian McCleary existed. That Bradford Rice did die of drowning. The other 3 boys are up in question. It is odd that those 3 boys were never recovered. So I mean, it's interesting to think about this, all the things that surround this, because it's a very odd, mysterious tale. Unfortunately, Edward, like I said, he passed away 2016, age of 70, and he took the story with him.
Oh man.
There's no survivors of the Pensacola Sea Monster now.
Oh man. What a terrible tale. What a just absolutely Ty, you did a great job covering that. Don't get me wrong, but that is such a traumatic story, and then to oh my gosh, from start to finish. I mean, fabulous job, absolutely wonderful. I didn't see that fucking coming.
There's no gleaming happy ending to this one. Just everyone dies.
Everyone dies.
Everyone dies.
Oh my gosh. All his friends are literally dead.
All his friends are dead. He had to struggle with drug and alcoholism and the trauma of seeing his 4 friends killed by a sea monster.
Oh my gosh.
Until the day he died.
It is interesting.
Sad tale.
It really is. But I mean, it is interesting that he sought out psychological help and stopped believing that it was a sea monster. So it's maybe like
Supposedly. Well, that's
supposedly.
I think with take a grain of salt. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like I said, well, it's just
supposedly.
stuff from Reddit. It seemed like he was very much closed off in his later years. He didn't try to ride the fame out. He didn't go to like conventions or try to do interviews, things of that nature. So a lot of this stuff is just secondhand
Okay.
Reddit information there toward the end.
Okay.
So it is interesting that he didn't like try to ride it out like see like Patterson, Gimlin, and those guys, or Patterson. They'll seek out the convention scene and do podcasts, interviews, and books and magazines and all that stuff. But he was very much not akin to that, and I'm sure he could have made a pretty nice little chunk of change.
Oh, the book he could have written.
That. Yeah.
Oh.
But he didn't. Kind of kept his life very quiet, and he just died from dealing with the trauma.
So sad. So sad. So sad.
But that is file number 045, the Pensacola Sea Monster attack. A terrifying tale of survival and horror taking place on the open ocean. So you never know what's under there. You never know what's in the ocean. I mean,
no.
It's interesting to think of all the different theories around it. You can't really push off any of the theories. I mean, they all make sense. The young boys want a prank that just goes horribly wrong. It's happened before.
Oh my gosh, yes.
All the time. The whale, I think, is very plausible.
Oh, absolutely. Especially if the whale was seen there like before or like had known to be there beforehand.
Right. It's an Atlantic whale, so I mean it's native to that area.
Yeah.
Yeah, just and then the sea monster. I mean, if you want to believe, you can definitely believe. I mean, I don't think it's hard to say, oh, that didn't happen, because we have all these events that led up to it. There were at least a boy that we know of who drowned. There's one boy who survived, who told this story, and it is just a weird thing to think, why would you include the sea monster in this story?
Right.
If something happened, if your friend drowned, if you killed your friend, why tell this story about a sea monster? Why not just make it short, simple? Why add all this pomp and circumstance about a giant sea monster?
Exactly. That's exactly where I'm coming from. Like, why would you? Why is the question? But Ty, that was amazing. That was really cool. I can now say I know about the Pensacola Sea Monster and all of its happenings and theories, and how absolutely tragic and sad the whole story is. But like, oh man, that was really good. That was really, really good, Ty. Great job.
Oh, thank you. And we're just getting started. Summer at Sea is we're in the early stages of this trip. We still got 2 more months left of this, 4 more episodes. Yeah. And up next in Summer at Sea, Bailey is bringing us more sea monster goodness.
Yeah.
If you like sea monsters, Bailey's going to talk about the king of sea monsters, the Leviathan, in the next episode, file 046.
The Hellmouth
that's
itself.
Going to be a fun one.
Oh,
the Hellmouth. The Hellmouth. I'm really interested to hear about that because the biblical Leviathan is terrifying. One of the I guess one of the more monstrous creatures in the Bible. I think that it's going to be very interesting to learn more about it.
It's going to be it's going to be cool. That one has got. If I start, I'm not going to stop. So you're just going to have to tune in for the Leviathan episode.
Hold off until 2 weeks from now. We'll be back here on what is that date? That is
going to be July 9th, I believe.
July 9th. July 9th. July 9th for file 046. Hope you guys enjoyed this deep dive into the Pensacola Sea Monster. There's a ton of articles you can find about it online if you look in the right places. Like I said, for some reason it's not very prevalent, but you can find some pretty in-depth articles. The articles you do find are pretty well written, and they do really go deep into it. But I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure you guys follow at Cult Talk Net across the board: Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, X, whatever Twitter's called now. X, X. Facebook, all the things. Instagram at YouTube, at Cult Talk Net. Cult Talk Net is where I'm usually at. That's probably the best place to contact us. YouTube.com/Cult Talk Net. Ton of content on there. Hundreds of episodes.
Literally.
On that. Across the board. Cult of Campbell comes out on Mondays. Cult Talk Conspiracy with Bailey and I. We're here every other Tuesday. Cult of Lore with Eric, Ben, and Jerry comes out the first and third Thursday of the month. And youtube.com/culttalknet has the full video experience of their episodes. You got to check those out. It's a little added video content to fully immerse yourself into those worlds they're building and they're exploring over on Cult of Lore. Culttober Plus, it's home to all of our Culttober horror movie reviews, and we put Culttober classics out every final Friday of the month over there. And who knows what else we got coming out? It's summer.
Yeah.
We're recording well ahead of summer, so who knows? There's probably 5-6 more shows that we're launching simultaneously right now. Who knows?
Who knows what's happening?
We put out just an ungodly amount of content for us, such a small network. It is insane the amount of content we put out. So keep your eyes peeled at Cult Talk Net for all the information on what we have coming out, all the special events and things we get involved in. We post about them pretty regularly on there. So. But Bailey and I, we're continuing Summer at Sea here July 9th for File 046. Another deep dive to make you question everything before you go back into the water. But I think that does it for us, Bailey.
I think so.
Well, I've been Ty.
And I've been Bailey.
And until next time, question everything.